Let me read to you a passage from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 8, verses 28 to 34. It's the Gospel for Wednesday of the 13th week of Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, "When Jesus came to the territory of the Gadarenes, 2 demoniacs who were coming from the tombs met him. They were so savage that no one could travel by that road. They cried out, 'What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the appointed time?' Some distance away, a herd of many swine was feeding. The demons pleaded with him, 'If you drive us out, send us into the herd of swine.' And he said to them, 'Go then.' They came out and entered the swine, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, where they drowned. The swineherds ran away, and when they came to the town, they reported everything, including what had happened to the demoniacs. Thereupon the whole town came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their district." That's from Matthew chapter 8, verses 28 to 34. And what does it suggest to us? Well, St. Jerome once wrote that the one who knows not the Scriptures does not know Christ. Of course, we must interpret such a statement broadly and recognize that one can know the content of the Scriptures without being an avid reader of the actual text. Consider, for instance, the illiterate yet profoundly religious Catholic, whose spiritual life is nourished by a prayerful and daily recitation of the very scriptural Rosary, by the great prayers recommended by the Church, by the preaching of the Word of God in the Church, by the sacraments, and by the whole life of the Church, of which he or she is a faithful member. That is to say, the content of the Scriptures can come to a person not only in the actual text, which is far and away the privileged mode of knowing them, but by other means as well. The revelation that is Christ comes to us in both the Scriptures and in the Church's tradition. And the holy illiterate that I just mentioned is primarily nourished by the Church's tradition. That proviso having been made, there is not the slightest doubt that the inspired text of the Scriptures, and most especially of the Gospels, nourishes our knowledge of the person of Jesus in a most eminent way. Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that we ought read the Scriptures as if we are reading a letter to us from our very close friend. If that is the case with the Scriptures, it is particularly so with the Gospels, which the Church regards as their most precious portions. They, the Gospels, present to us the person and teaching of the Lord. Countless Catholics begin their day in the presence of the living Christ by praying over the Gospel of the Mass of that day. This is an excellent spiritual practice and will lead to the knowledge and love of Christ, the Christ of the Gospels. Well then, let us consider our Gospel text of today, in which we have a confrontation between Christ and the demons. The demons in our text are unusually savage and strong, for we read that they were so savage that no one could travel by that road, that is to say, the people who were possessed by the demons. The first thing we notice is the fear and desperation of the demons in the presence of Christ. They know he has no part with them whatever, and that he has the mastery. At the sight of him, they fear the consequences. They cry out, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the appointed time?" They know they are doomed, and they know that their doom will come from the one who is before them. He is all holy, and he is all powerful. He has come to put an end to their influence. But we observe too that they are aware of his mercy, and so, doomed though they are, they appeal for a species of leniency in the short term. We read, "Some distance away, a herd of many swine was feeding. The demons pleaded with him, 'If you drive us out, send us into the herd of swine.' And he said to them, 'Go then.'" Incidentally, it is incidents in the Gospels such as these that suggest, I think, degrees of damnation. Hell is eternal, and will be a horror for all who by their lives in effect choose to go there. But might we not think that the mercy of God allows for degrees of suffering in hell, and that Dante's picture of this eternal inferno with its grades and levels is legitimate, a legitimate picture? Well, whatever of that. In our gospel scene we have, on the one hand, the destructive and yet ultimately helpless demons, and on the other hand, the all-holy and all-powerful Christ. Let us place ourselves in our gospel scene and make our choice once again. Let us place ourselves definitively in the company of Christ and renounce everything and anything that might smack of the devil and his ways. Satan has no future, but Christ's kingdom will never end. As the devils in our gospel text know all too well, there is an appointed time when he will come, and then there will be only happiness or torment. Let the thought of this help to protect us in time of temptation. So, dear friend, what is it to be? Christ or Satan? Let it not be a bit both ways, but rather one or the other. In the book of Revelation, Christ says that if we are neither hot nor cold, he will spit us out of his mouth. As St. Ignatius puts it in his famous spiritual exercises, there are two standards flying aloft. One is the standard of Christ, and the other is the standard of Satan. Let us take our stand with Christ, and don the armour and the weapons of Christ. That weapon, that armour, is the cross. Well, let us carry it generously with Jesus,